grow it. From the Stash Podcast.
A huge shout out to Freeze Pipe. These guys have got some of the smoothest hoots that you're going to get when hitting back on either the bubblers, the ham pipes, the e-nails, you name it. If you go to thefreezepipe.com, use the stash 10, you're going to save a few dollars off on checkout. They're a small American-owned online smoke shop that bring a unique line of freezable pipes and bubblers and more to your tabletop. Don't hesitate. Check them out today and thank them for being a sponsor of today's video. And a huge shout out to Chilled LED. These guys have got some of the greatest American-made products on the market today. Whether you're a commercial grower or a home grower, Chilled has got you covered. From big lights to little lights, you can even check out their ROI calculator. If you're one of the few people who have yet to switch from an HPS light to an LED, well, you can calculate your money and energy saved by switching to Chilled LED. But if you use promo code TheStash15, you're going to save a few dollars off at checkout and thank them for being a sponsor of today's video. Thank you, Chill LED.
So, boys, from the stash.
Back at it again.
Back at it
back,
again.
boys.
Pretty good. It feels good to be here, man.
Absolutely does. Feels really good to be in the middle this time around. Every time we've come here, I feel like I don't get the comfy spot. Turns out, this is the spot.
Yeah,
This is the spot.
Yeah, weeks ago when we first started this, I was in the pleasure of sitting in that seat, and I tried to tell him that it was the uncomfy spot.
The worst spot, he said. He's like,
It was the best spot because I didn't have to like follow the microphone every time I talk. You know, it's right there the whole time.
Right
you
there,
know,
in this
and
face,
then they're like, Chris is like, should we change seats? I was like, I don't really think we should. You know, it's like the mics and everything. It's pretty set, pretty comfy.
Hogging the good seat.
And then he sat there and he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's the best seat. I was like, okay, gosh darn it.
Busted.
So yeah, needless to say, we're getting comfier every episode. It feels really good to be able to sit and chill here, man.
To be in person, you know, we do so many episodes where we're remote and we're just connecting through the internet, and it's so much better in person for sure.
Beautiful, man. It's beautiful. I love to be able to do it. It's something that I feel like we wouldn't be able to do without, of course, you, the viewers, but also, let's go back here. Who's that, Chris? I think.
No, AC Infinity.
Yeah, AC
Shout out to
Infinity.
AC Infinity.
So I think, without a company like this, again, our gardens would not be nearly where they are. There's no question. There would have been Frankenstein, cobble job, multiple different things to try to make
Just
the
like that
results of what we're
sentence.
getting. Just like the sentence. With this company, man, they have literally made the complete garden. Like, all you need is the plant. Literally, at this point,
Just
nutrients
add
in the
water.
plant. Like, yeah, it's almost just add water, dude. So AC Infinity, man, they really listen to us. They listen to the community as a whole, and I really think that's the difference maker compared to a lot of brands. They're in it to win it legitimately. So without them, we wouldn't be here. So big shout out to AC Infinity. Use the discount code TheStash15 at checkout at acinfinity.com on any of their products.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And I kind of think that their company is a great segue into today's topic when it comes to sustainability in the garden. This is something that's really important to me because I've always tried to justify to my wife that we can do this and it's not going to cost us a fortune. And so there's steps that I've consciously taken to try to make this the most cost-effective, the most eco-friendly, and, just the easiest, just to make sure that I'm not overspending in any area when it comes to producing in the garden. So today's conversation, sustainability in the garden.
Yeah.
Where we should start to knock it out of the park right to begin is grow outside, use the sun.
Yeah.
Right. You save so much money. I've grown indoors for so long. Unfortunately, I can't grow outdoors where I live. My state doesn't allow it. So at least for that plant that we all know and love.
Yeah.
And so I'm stuck paying $30 a month on electricity. I do the calculations, find out how much the grow lights cost. If I was able to grow outdoors, use the sun as light instead of a grow light, you save so much more money.
Oh, yeah. And your fans or lack thereof outside,
Yeah.
your intake and your outtake, that part too.
Right?
So, the beauty of growing outside is you're literally just working with nature. And, had it been more available for people to be able to do this without the restrictions of laws telling us what plants we can and can't have outside, which is just another conversation, but the most ludicrous thing I've ever heard. Like, I can't believe in Nevada, they don't allow you to. it's like, hey, good. I should have said, good luck. Go ahead. Like you're gonna be out there every day, like you're indoor playing. The difference is, man, it's like you barely even have wind half the time here, let alone humidity. So to restrict somebody's growing for sustainability in an area that is on the grid heavily, you'd think they'd be like, hey, whatever you can do to be more sustainable for us is our area that's kind of separated from the rest of the world in the desert here. It would make more sense. I feel like, in Michigan, we've had weird restrictions in that sense where it's like, hey, sustainability is not the thought process, but it's like, hey, you can grow, but you got to have a 6-foot privacy fence. With a sustainable garden, you shouldn't have to think about a privacy fence other than keeping the garden in that area. It shouldn't be about hiding it. I think that if we had the opportunity to grow outside, we wouldn't have nearly the electrical stamp. Like the footprint is huge, massive. The amount of people who are growing inside who are still using HPSs or commercial grows, massive. So it's not only taken from the home grower in that case, but the world, the whole grid. So more sustainable. If we can have sun, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
If we could use nature, wow,
Right.
Or even like when you look at sustainability in terms of utilizing the things in nature, like you were talking about, I don't know, a month ago at this point, having the you said it smoother, FPJs.
Oh, natural farming techniques. Yeah. So FPJ, fermented plant juice, fermented fruit juice. A lot of people use fermented plant juice in veg as like a veg fertilizer, and then fermented fruit juice in flowering for like a bloom fertilizer. And if you can eliminate using buying fertilizer, just using what you have available in your yard, for example, save a whole bunch of money.
With the sun, with your automatic fans you have from the wind, like, dude, you would literally have that's the end goal, to be as sustainable as you can possibly be. You're damn near off of the grid. And especially if you got to plant a bed and you built a bed of soil that you have of a sustainable soil that you're working with.
Yep.
I mean, that's the epitome of sustainable gardening.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, even the weeds, like some people deliberately let their weeds grow outdoors so they can cut down the weeds, put it into their compost pile, for example. That turns into compost, which you can use to top dress and nutrients for the plant. So it's like, if you closed loop operation, is what a lot of people aim for. It's to not really have to go outside of the loop.
One thing to touch on, I think, is important too, is the water. It's difficult in places like this, but there is precipitation that comes down, so you could be collecting your water,
purifying and cleaning it.
And if you have to, you purify it, make it so that it's usable and work into your needs. But a lot of people are collecting rainwater. Yep. That's big. Really, you can get a lot of water from a multitude of areas. Some people dig down for it, get it from the ground, some wells. Try to find a way that you don't have to go. You don't have to be reliant on anyone or any business really to keep going. That's the idea. So outdoor sustainability, that's one way.
Also with water, if you can use your tap water. Now in some areas you can't. Where I am, I can't. A lot of sodium bicarbonates where I am. Plants don't like that at all, so I have to filter my water. But it is recommended, even if you're in a well or tap water, to send out a water sample to like Logan Labs, for example, and see what's in your water. You might actually be able to use water without filtering it. So there you go.
Yeah, he's got a prime example of that.
I have right out of the tap. I just right in the basement. The only thing I need to worry about is in the wintertime, you got to actually turn a little warm water on too to make sure that the water coming out of the taps isn't so cold.
Yeah.
Because that's a reality, is the pipes are coming underground, and when it's minus 40, 30, 40, 50 degrees outside, it makes the water quite cold. But no filtration. Granted, the filtration happens before my house. That's why. Because we've got a really good water plant in my town, and the water coming out of my tap water, it has less parts per million than the water in this bottle.
Than from the stash water?
The water. Yep. Maybe not from the stash water, because this is exclusive from your stash? Not my tap.
No.
But anyways, it's an absolute pleasure, and that helps.
Well, I think,
now you are paying for that. Let's be real, right?
Well, there's no free especially water. You in Canada.
Yeah.
It's coming out of something.
It's coming out of something, but it's, you can collect rainwater, or if you can get other sources but tap water is a good source.
So we're going about as extreme as it gets. This is almost be the end of the episode. What's the middle ground for those of us? I mean, it's like telling somebody who is getting diabetes to be like, just quit eating sugar. And you're like, shut up, I'm going to keep eating sugar. Tell me a better alternative. Like, give me some medium. And I think in this case, how you could implement some of these things from outside inside, or these things you're already that are using that could be more efficient, and you could dial in your efficacy overall in your garden. I think that's a way to enhance your sustainability. So that could be something like switching to organic media versus doing synthetic bottles. I mean, once you have a super soil that's kind of consistently feeding your plants and you're reworking it, you don't need to keep buying bottles. Immediately more sustainable.
Don't need to keep buying soil. A lot of people buying soil run after run. You can
Exactly.
totally reuse that soil.
Oh, I
There may be a little more
You're doing the
work.
same
I've been
thing.
doing
You're
that.
doing
Yeah, I've been on the same run for 6-7 runs now. So
I had the
same soil.
I had the pleasure of actually seeing your garden with the
Covered soil.
yeah. What was the
It's like mycelium.
Mycelium was all over the
because there's
top.
a lot of breakdown happening there
Yeah,
with the covered and nice and moist.
doing it
Yeah.
yourself. Yeah, we had an episode a few weeks back in regards to DIY, or it might not even come out yet. I know the future. And one of those ways was, doing your own methods and doing your own soil, and even had your own crop cover. That was pretty cool too. But keeping sustainable, and I think DIY is actually a great mini topic. We have an entire episodes on DIY in your garden, and doing your own is a great way to be sustainable, because then you can use your resources on other parts of your garden. Maybe if you can't use rainwater, you got to go buy filtration, so on and so forth.
Yeah. Well, and then you look at even like something as tough to call sustainability as your light or as your electronics. Like I've been the type who have kept old stuff for years that was really inefficient in terms of the electrical usage. And I could have been a lot more sustainable had I just spent a little more money and upgraded to the newer, more efficient equipment.
Talking LED, HPS,
Man,
or
I kept
HID.
HPS is other than Franklin Fields, baby. I'm the only one who had them. And like I kept it going and going and going because I was getting big yields, and I was like, I'm not switching. I'm not spending $1,000 on
Stuck
a
in your
light.
ways.
Until technology advanced, and then I really started using my brain. And when you're talking about the efficacy versus wattage, and my thought process was, oh well, that doesn't make any sense. 600 watts, 1,000 watts. You're an idiot. No, I was actually. And now, I made it so I could sustain having the garden running as long as I have with as many lights and as large of a footprint, because I've got different kinds of lights now. And same with overall technology. My humidifier and my air conditioner, dog trash, just straight up ass water. Now, solid, because I spent the money to get better ones. A little more money, not everybody can do it, but the goal for sustainability is also not just for money. It's for, I think, efficiency, and be able to have it a long amount of time. And I couldn't grow forever if I keep having crazy expenses that don't justify having such a large garden.
I think it's important to note too that you talk like HPS is, it's unsustainable. I'll run with that. Versus LED and technology is advanced to a point where now we have things that just make sustainability easier. But there was a point where it's like growing your own product is being sustainable. Not having to rely on pharmaceuticals, or not having to rely on an industry or the dispo or consumerism, and so on and so forth. To be sustainable is to provide for yourself and to keep it maintainable and long lasting. And so, rather than being reliant on somebody, I grabbed the HPS. I was using metal halide, and still being sustainable.
Yeah.
But then it was like, how can your sustainability be sustainable?
Yeah.
Like how can you?
That's when you become
to
more
the
efficient.
next level.
That's where I think it's.
And I think that's like it's everlasting. It's everlasting, and I think in the same way that technology keeps advancing, you've got companies like AC, you've got these light companies these days that remember when blurples were like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000.
Yeah, and
at least
still
Canadian
like
beaver
1,200
watts.
watts.
Blurples,
That much?
LEDs,
Not, Canadian
maybe
dollars.
Canadian. So you'd be
Okay.
still
Yeah, it's
talking
still like
one.
$600-$700. I mean, certain ones.
Yeah, still.
U.S. Yeah,
Oh,
still
still to this day.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just thinking,
depending,
this U.S. This would have been between 2,500 and 3,000, 3,200 bucks.
I don't know.
This was
Like
like
you were
probably 10
talking
years.
about. It used to be about $1,000.
We're okay. So maybe it
1,500.
wasn't the blurples I got.
Oh, you
maybe
might be
we're
talking,
the
like Black
first.
Dog LED.
Yeah.
Or-
It's
yeah.
like $2,500 for
It was
Black
a
Dog.
4x4 to fill a 4x4.
Yeah, nothing crazy. But it was more so that the technology was it was expensive to make the lights
Well,
too.
it was still high wattage. It wasn't super efficient. The efficacy wasn't crazy. It was more about the spectrum and what you were getting for your plants. And like, oh, this is better lighting. It's more optimized for your plant. But then you're like, hey, I'm using just as much electricity and it's hot as hell. And why would I do that? So that's not sustainable. I couldn't keep a garden going like that. And now the argument with the cost of flour being so cheap in so many states and provinces is like, is it if you can't be more sustainable in your home garden, you're almost better off just going to get it from somebody else. Because it's like, why would you spend if you're somebody who consumes less than an ounce a month? Why would you spend $300-400 a month to do that and grow every month? You'd only grow for X amount of time and shut down because then you've got your crop, you got your harvest, or you just don't do it because it's not sustainable. Because you're like, man, I smoke a joint a month. Why would I spend $200 a month on my total cost to make this happen? Unless you can dial it down and make it cheaper. And that's where you have to become more efficient in your garden. I think you got to look at sustainability from two areas of like maintaining your lifestyle and what you like, the cost of it, and also the footprint. Because like I'm real big on not abusing the electrical usage per se, which I used to be big on that. I had like 6,000 waters, just big baller style, and then like 3 air conditioners just to maintain that. Compared to now, I could have less of all. But I was using so much to the point where not only could I not sustain it to produce that because it's too expensive, but just for the earth, it's like, damn, that's awful. How could I be just mongering on this just to be a cash cropper? It just didn't, I don't know, it's personal preference there, but you've got to look at sustainability from multiple areas, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think one area which is good to dive into would be composting.
Yep.
I mean, using some of your inputs to reuse, turn them into nutrients, right? Your coffee grounds,
Your waste.
yeah, your waste,
Little
your
eggshells.
banana peels, any greens, all that can be turned into compost, which you top dress onto your plant's medium and nutrients for the plants. So you save money on fertilizer on the nutrient side of things. I know a lot of people, they are defoliating their plants and they just throw away those leaves, right? Chop and drop method is a lot of things that people that regenerative gardening, sustainable. We talk about sustainability, doing the defoliation, but then just dropping them down on the medium. It turns into a mulch layer, so it helps with water retention, but also it's breaking down to be nutrients for your plant. You know what I mean? So that's one thing that many years ago you hear about that being bad.
Yeah, like get them out of there.
Yeah.
As soon as you see
There
leaf,
shouldn't be any
pull it out.
leaves on
Yeah.
the bottom soil at the top of the now your leaves shouldn't hit the soil and still be on the plant. That's a bad thing, a
Right.
very common bad thing, right? You have pathogens that can infect the plant, but we're talking about chopping the leaves off, defoliation or pruning or whatever, dropping it down onto the medium and just letting it be a mulch layer and breaking down. A lot of people used to say that it was bugs that would attract bugs, and that would be
I was
the
one of those
reason
people.
to avoid
I was one
it
of those people.
is to because you're more likely to have bugs and attract bugs. Now, of course, on the organic, when you're growing organic inputs, they're going to be beneficial microbes and beneficial insects that are there. So I feel like a lot of people just mistaken the good for bad. It's really those are things that are beneficials in your garden. Those are the types of good bugs that are going to be helpful in breaking things down and so on and so forth. So chop and drop method is something I do all the time now. I mean, I think it's a no-brainer for me
Yeah.
is to use that from now on.
You actually just recently harvested, and you did that. You've got all your leaves just sitting as your top mulch,
Yep.
right on top.
Yeah, you
And-
saw it.
Yep.
I've got one that's kind of mixed in with the barley straw. So you got the greens and the browns kind of mixed in. Typical general composting is mix even amount of greens, even amount of browns, and then that'll break down into a good ratio. So I had that on one plant. On the other plant, I had the cardboard cover.
Yeah.
So I had the leaves and then just cover it with cardboard. Make sure that another thing that helps with the top layer being moist, water retention. All that stuff's great.
Yeah, I think that's where utilizing what you already have in your garden or in your room versus having to get more to bring into it. That's even more sustainability because it's like, yeah, I can go buy the barley and do everything like that and make it so you're covering the top of your crops, but you can also utilize what you already have.
Well,
Yeah,
we've talked about this, and and it's something that I don't think is talked about enough, and that's the reality of how inefficient and how damaging to our planet it is to ship organic matter around the planet.
Yeah.
Stuff that you can do at home, you're buying in a bag on Amazon and having it shipped to your door.
Well, that's being
Because
taken from other places and
can't
stuff
wait.
too.
Yeah, you can't wait to do it yourself. It
Yeah.
takes time and it's an effort in this process. But being sustainable means that you need to be conscious about these things and taking steps to make it better.
Like I was using that hydrogen for a while when I was doing DWC, and after I learned more about it not being as sustainable, I ended up switching to the recycled glass. It was like these little grow stones, they were called, and they're essentially recycled glass pieces. That was a big difference for me I wouldn't say a good difference per se, because they were all different pieces, and some would fall through into my water, and it would ruin uh, just things I was working on. But I felt better because it was a more sustainable media. Same with cocoa. When I'm getting cocoa, I'm really concerned. I don't grow with cocoa anymore, but when I did, I was concerned that I'm getting it from an unsustainable source and how they're getting it and how they're sourcing it. Same with peat. You look at it and it's like, is this sustainable in terms of the environment and the earth? Your own garden is something that you have control of a lot more. When you look at it in the masses, it's like, okay, where am I buying this product from? Because the more I keep buying it, it has to come from somewhere. Is it a sustainable source? Not only in a selfish way can I keep using it, but also am I taking from the planet by depleting these resources? So there's that fine balance between mass sustainability and personal sustainability. I think switching up medias like that for cocoa for me, it was easier for me to get the results that I was looking for, a more sustainable result essentially by switching to that. But then on a larger scale, I'm like, man, I shouldn't always be taking this. It's like I'm not reusing it. I'm not doing like I could. I'm tossing it, And I think there's that fine line between, I wouldn't say hindering your performance, but making sure that you're just like the ethics we were talking about in pot stocks, where like you got to get a win, you got to get a victory, but you also have to look at ethics in that side too. And sometimes you could be more sustainable for your personal gain, less than you can for the larger good,
Yep.
so to speak.
Yep, that's fair. That's fair. Are you thinking on the individual or are you thinking about the community?
Yeah,
Right.
like even when you're dealing with organic medias, or different organic inputs, like you could be getting them all from the one place you want to be supporting because, like, hell yeah, but now they got to get it from somewhere and they're getting it in bulk. And then that's taking more from the sustainable resources we have in the earth. But not everybody wants to do the work to get these things for more sustainability. Again, getting it from your backyard, most people, where we're at here currently, that wouldn't be as easy. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
No backyard.
Or if you're in the big city, if you're in an apartment, or
Yep.
Well, in fairness, actually, you and I were talking earlier in regards to regenerative gardening, farming,
Yep.
and the idea, the concept that you can even convert this desert land into fertile growing medium, and that's pretty amazing. So you're like we're essentially taking a place where things naturally cannot grow and using the environment that's already here. I'm sure there's a few additives naturally that they'd be maybe adding to the soil to help maybe spark up microbial activity of sorts. Because
probably stashing those things somewhere.
who knows? I don't know. I would assume that maybe where there isn't microbial life, that they might have to add a little bit to just get it pumping, get it started, so that then you start that process. I'm not totally sure. I'm a little bit ignorant on the concept of regenerative farming, but great idea of sustainability and something that I'd love to actually have someone that was a little more
We're versed in that topic.
to get into that.
That would be
Yeah.
great. I mean, you mentioned Steve Cantwell, actually, from Green
Right.
Life Productions. He's the one who, you're
Former
making-
WC champ.
Yeah, we were talking about
that. Former light heavyweight champion.
If you guys know him,
He's-
send a message.
a lot of people know him because he's known in Las Vegas to be one of the ones that kind of started out once the industry became legal here in 2016 for recreational, having no-till living soil indoors. And now he's been successful there on like run number 32 in the same beds or something like that. So he's been doing it for many, many years. But he now has Green Life Produce outdoors. And so we're in the desert. He's reviving that soil and growing produce in it and doing it all
It's
the same
incredible.
methods. Yeah. The no-till living style,
awesome.
cover crops in between. He's making that soil fertile again. It's incredible, that whole process.
Damn.
But it's totally possible.
Yeah, and
The
we need
blue chew in the
more
dirt. Like that is crazy.
more of
man.
that. Utilizing what's already here, like similar to like solar panels. The energy's there.
Well, and these are the
Utilize
things.
it.
Not that this is probably top buds conversation, but not that the government wants it, but these are the things that can help with world hunger, and these are the things that can help with
For sure could.
the economy growth and the explosion in innovation things that we
I'm
have.
sure.
like-
I'm sure. In some sense, there's tons of private companies out there that are doing this stuff in places like Africa. I think.
Yeah,
Like,
probably not
I-
Africa,
I-
but yeah,
I don't know.
maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe South Africa.
Maybe I have no idea, but I'm just thinking that like this. Yeah, the concept can't be just happening in Nevada.
It can't just be Cantwell.
Yeah.
Doom, doom, doom.
Or is
Shout out
it-
Steve Cantwell though.
Yeah.
Yeah, good
We need to
fighter.
get him on the podcast. Why don't you
Oh,
guys
man.
head on over to their Instagram, Green Life Productions, and say you should go on the From the Stash podcast. We'd love to have him on here.
Love to have you
Talk
on
to
there.
him.
Tell him that Rob won't bother you about WEC days. Don't worry. I might say one or two things, but I won't make it awkward. I won't fanboy. I've walked up with Stephen Bonner, R.I.P., and didn't, tear up and be like, but I cried
he
on the
was
inside.
pretty cool.
It was close.
I did walk up and grab everybody. It was like,
Fanboy.
Everybody's like, who? Where? What? I'm like,
I didn't even process. Anyways, that's a whole other conversation.
R.I.P. Stephen Bonner, though. But this is where, when you're looking at the growth of things, that's one area of sustainability. What about consumption? Sustainable consumption, sustainable use. For people who are like, I'm just, I only buy this much. Or I'm just going to do rosin. I'm not going to have this. Don't you think home growing is the best way for sustainable use? No matter what, even if you do have a little bit higher of an expense, if you're going to consume in terms of having the better product, consistent product, doing it for a lesser cost, and less of the push towards mass electrical consumption from a giant corporation potentially, don't you think that's the biggest push to grow at home? I think that's the first step for sustainability, is to grow your own.
100, yes. I think that would be the ideal. I'm just immediately, I think, well, not everybody can. It is difficult. And I'm not just thinking those that are in land of prohibition. I'm also thinking about those that are maybe strife or affected with like a medical ailment and have the inability to grow their own. And they want to be sustainable. They still want to try to figure it out. So how would someone be sustainable to get product and that's going to work to their benefit? Well, it's got to be price effective. I think that you should source out where it's coming from, so that sustainability can focus on longevity, because you want good, solid, safe, clean product. Yeah. And if you don't have the ability to grow it, you do need to be a little more conscientious of what you're purchasing it from. Also, it's like the reality is sustainability. You should probably be not smoking it, man. Because, and I say this,
it's the least sustainable way to consume.
It's the quickest way to probably do the most amount of damage. And I only mean that because it's the combustibles in our lungs. And
you hear my voice, I'm a little ranch. I've smoked a lot of blunts.
I just think that, it's like the evolution, or at least the advancements of technologies of vaporizers, edibles, tinctures. And I'm a complete hypocrite for this. Everybody knows that I'm a huge glass guy. I prefer my rips. You're the blunt.
I don't grow organic. Well, I have.
I'm just thinking. It's
these are tips for the people.
Yeah, I just how to be sustainable. It's like you want to be able to consume in the healthiest way possible, and I think one of the healthiest ways possible is probably
eating
edibles, tinctures, lotions.
There's zero waste versus something like even vaporizing. There's that leftover component.
I still don't think. I don't care. There's just not enough science out there to validate vaporizing to me. I still don't think adding anything to your lungs that's foreign is 100% sustainable.
Yeah, there's a lot of debate on that one too, especially depending on the form of vapor. That's another conversation. Maybe vaporizing, we can get somebody who's more of an expert, because I know that there's, depending on
how many experts you got. I just think, how long's vaporizers been?
Have you seen those dudes who blow the big O's and then a thing through
They're
that?
experts because they could do smoke tricks.
Yeah. Okay, we'll get one for sure. I'm just thinking, vaporizing. It's like Delta. It's like Delta 8, man, and THCO and this stuff where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, come on, man.
Well, I think with the smoke versus vapor, there is some science, I feel like, with the combustibility in terms of the tar.
Yeah, I'm 100% saying, I'm not saying that vaporizing is as bad as. No, 100%. Smoking.
But being the best form.
Vaporizing is not 100% safer, but it's significantly safer, or has shown to be, up until thus far. Not. It is not.
Good choice of words.
It is not as bad, or has not, as I said. So I just think, though, let's see what happens. Because, let's face it, vaporizing amongst teens is a real issue. Let's see what happens in 10 to 15 years as to whether that was sustainable.
Well, and everybody knows tobacco's wacko if you're a teen.
I don't believe it is the best option. I don't think it is. It just doesn't make sense to me. Our lungs are meant for oxygen. Yes, we have an ECS, an endocannabinoid system, but I don't believe the delivery method is supposed to be through inhalation.
Well, I think that's where, again, you're looking at sustainability in terms of your health, your cost, the effectiveness. That's where you got to look into it, the layers, just like you would with the garden, just like you would with the lifestyle. Mm-hmm. There's layers to this shit, It's really a unique thought process, too, because you got to think about people who can't afford to always go for the most... like the organic options or the more sustainable options for the larger scale. they got to think in terms of cost for sustainability only. So like, it's probably going to be more expensive to get a nice vaporizer, but it won't be to just get flour.
The volcano's like $1,000.
Exactly. But if you want to be healthy, you need to get $1,000. Otherwise, go grab yourself a Rello from the store. You know what I'm saying? Twist that son of a bitch up, or some papers, or pack it up in a bowl, or God forbid, like our
Tinfoil cans days.
yeah, tinfoil can
That was
days.
not
You know,
sustainable.
I think that's where like it's hard to be sustainable if you can't afford to be, and that's where it doesn't matter if it's in the garden or the consumption side. It's hard if you don't have the money to do that. The only sustainability you have is cost effectiveness, and that could be the option. It could be the one that's the worst for the earth, worse for your body, worse for your garden.
Well, as we've discussed, I'm just thinking, no money. You still, as a human being, produced a significant amount of waste. And that way, there's people out there that
Use your shit.
urinate on their plants for a source of nitrogen.
Oh yeah,
Now it's up for
some
debate
bosses out there, man.
how effective that source of nitrogen really is, but it's no lie. People are using urine, or have used urine as some source of supplement. Now, was it just the urine that worked in this situation? Was it the other nutrients that they may have provided? I'm not sure. But what I'm saying is human beings provide an incredible amount of waste. We have to eat. There's byproducts of that
Dookie
food.
on your plants, ladies and gentlemen.
We said it. Eggshells, banana peels, coffee grounds. Like the list goes on. The fish we eat. There's so much waste that you can be sustainable with no money. Well, I guess you got to eat.
Well, you got to put in work. Then you got to sacrifice that money for work.
Of course,
and that's and I think that's the big argument is that put in more work to
be
get to that.
sustainable. You're working for you.
Exactly.
You're working for you. I'm not giving this dollar to some corporation that doesn't give a hoot about me. Or sustainability is working with your community and getting eggs from Sheila down the street and getting your pork from Tom.
Or finding the caregiver in the medical program that you're going over and help trim the flour and the product.
The market
there's
system.
a lot of that's where like this is a kind of robust conversation, and I feel like the chat people who are listening or if you're watching be able to give a little more insight on what you see as sustainability, because realistically there's a lot of variations, there's a lot of variables.
Well, we just kind of touched on.
Yeah, we circled around the whole thing.
In terms of community, it's like like farmers markets. It's like I'm really good at doing X, Y, and Z. You're really good at doing W, S, and T, and A, B, and C. It's like let's put that together, and I get to enjoy your ABCs and your ST and Ws, and all
now
this,
we're more sustainable as a community.
And it's like
not just the individual.
You get a little bit of mine. You're really good at. You've got good fertile land over there on that side of town. You've got really good source of manure. I like saying manure.
Save big money on manure.
You know what I mean? So it's like to be sustainable, you might actually have to work collectively with your community to be able to work and network and provide for each other. I think that's a great source of being sustainable, because you can work together as a community rather than relying on these corporations, which I think is a really good point.
Yeah.
This is the first time. This is the first time we've ever actually really talked about sustainability. So I'm sure we've missed. I'm sure we've missed lots. So
yeah. I mean, kind of yes and no. I think this is where I said the conversation comes in. This is our theories on it and the thought process of it. When you look at like individual sustainability, community sustainability, environmental sustainability, economical sustainability, what's the most impactful to you, the listener, the viewer? What's the thing that is your make or break? This is a deal breaker if it doesn't hit this. For me personally, environmental. That's one, and I'm a victim of my own ignorance, where sometimes I'll buy things and I don't realize how bad it is for the environment. But more and more, the more I age, the more I mature, I'm trying to make sure that my footprint is less and less. But, as we have all this technology and lights on it, it is what it is. But then you got to look at, economical and these other things.
And I'm more on the economical side.
Yeah.
I care about my environment, and there's going to be some quick pro quo there where I got to give and take. But for me, it's like as a family man, in my side, my culture, it's like we're all going to believe in something a little bit differently, and it's going to mean something a little bit differently. And that's where I think it's a great idea to pass the question off to you guys in regards to, where does your sustainability start? Where does it end? Are there things that you would add to the conversation in regards to ways to make your gardening experience just a little more sustainable? We want to hear from you. So if you have anything, don't forget to leave that in the comment section below. We want to hear from you, because in fact, we could do a part 2 of this, and we could hear back from the comment section.
Absolutely. And once you guys are done watching this episode you guys might want to check out next would be utilizing an entire plant. I think that relates really well to this episode. I think you guys will really enjoy that if you liked this episode, because being able to utilize different parts of the plant, 100% of the plant in various ways is super beneficial.
It's one of the first starts to sustainability as a grower. And then the DIY, we've got a couple DIY videos. Those are other ones as well to be able to just help you to be more sustainable in what you're doing in this lifestyle. You know?
Great epi, boys. Great
All
epi.
right.
I want to give a huge shout out to AC Infinity for this. We appreciate you guys for bringing us together. Don't forget, you can visit us on FromTheStash.com, and you can view us live on Twitch.tv/FromTheStash. On behalf of myself, Mr. Grow It, Rob, and the man behind the scenes, Wink, we appreciate you guys. Peace.